Okay, let's unpack this because it's quite a story. Imagine a country, a major global player, getting ready to launch its own digital currency.
CBDC, yeah, Central Bank Digital Currency.
Exactly. A huge step, really. A leap into the future of money, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like right when it's about to happen, they slam on the brakes.
Yeah, quite suddenly.
So, why was going on behind the scenes? That's what we're diving into today. Russia's Digital Ruble Rollout. We're looking at a recent piece from Ledger Insights. Our goal here is to cut through the noise, figure out the real story behind this big delay, and see what it tells us about the practical side of launching these new financial techs.
Right. What are the real-world hurdles?
We want to pull out the key bits so you're really up to speed on this. It's pretty fascinating. So here's where it gets really interesting. The Bank of Russia, they were originally aiming to launch phase 1 of this digital ruble on July 1st, 2025.
Which is, that's really soon.
Incredibly soon. But
Yeah.
now, well, that date's off the table.
It is. What's really crucial here is the new date they're proposing. It's September 1st, 2026.
Okay, so over a year later.
Exactly. And it's not just like penciling in a new date. This actually requires changing the law itself.
Wow.
Which really tells you how significant this shift is. It's not a minor adjustment.
Yeah, definitely not. So you've got this massive national project, a pretty substantial delay, and now you need new legislation just to change the date. That really sounds like a major course correction. Something significant must have happened.
It does. It makes you ask what actually prompted this.
Well, it turns out this wasn't just the central bank deciding on its own. The delay came after some pretty significant pushback.
That's right. And it was quite widespread, apparently. Came from both the big banks and major retailers.
Both groups, okay.
Yeah. And interestingly, the largest retailers, they had actually asked for even more time. Up to 2 years, reportedly.
2 years.
So this new date, September 1st, 2026, it kind of looks like a compromise, doesn't it?
It does seem like they met somewhere in the middle. And one of the loudest voices I understand was Schuber, Russia's biggest bank.
Yes, Schuber was definitely a key player here.
So what was their issue? Why were they specifically pushing back against the original July 2025 timeline?
Well, Schuber's situation really shines a light on let's say, a critical bottleneck. They weren't actually included in the first phase of the digital ruble trials.
Oh, really? That seems like an oversight for the biggest bank.
It does. They only joined the trials in late December 2024.
Okay, so very late in the game.
Exactly. Which meant they simply wouldn't have had enough lead time. There was no way they could be ready to integrate everything if that original July 2025 date held.
Right, that makes perfect sense. It's a massive factor.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder about the planning for something this big. And how a key player like Schuber wasn't looped in earlier. Or maybe the challenges were underestimated.
It really underscores the practical difficulties, doesn't it? Implementing this kind of massive financial shift, even for the biggest institutions with lots of resources, it's complex.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, okay, the delay is confirmed. How are they planning to introduce it now? It sounds like a much more phased approach.
Definitely phased. And some of the rules about who gets in when have changed quite a bit.
How so?
Well, that first date, September 1st, 2026, that still applies to the biggest banks and retailers.
Okay, the top tier.
Right. But, and this is interesting, the definition of largest retailers has been narrowed down a lot.
Narrowed?
Yeah. Before, it was companies with revenues over 30 million rubles, which is, about $380,000?
Wow.
Now it's only those with revenues over 120 million rubles. That's more like $1.5 million.
Ah, I see. So they've significantly raised the bar for who's in that first wave.
Exactly. It seems like a direct response to feedback, maybe trying to reduce the initial burden on slightly smaller, large companies.
Makes sense. And what about everyone else then? The next level's down.
So the next tier, this includes banks with what's called a universal license,
Okay.
basically the one offering a full range of services,
Right.
and also merchants with revenues over that original 30 million ruble threshold. They get an extra year.
So September 2027 for them.
Correct. September 1st, 2027. And then for the smaller businesses, the sort of final deadline is pushed out to September 1st, 2028.
2 more years for the smallest ones. But hang on, there's another important detail here, Cynthia, about the really small merchants.
Ah, yes. This is quite significant. Small merchants, those with revenues under 5 million rubles.
Okay, the very small businesses.
They are now no longer compelled to accept the digital ruble at all.
So it's not just a delay for them, it's an exemption. They don't have to take it.
Exactly. It's a complete exemption, which is a major concession, really.
Wow. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it shows the central bank is being quite adaptable, maybe more pragmatic than initially thought. They're clearly listening to the feedback from the ground, especially from smaller businesses who might find adopting a whole new payment system really challenging, costly and technically difficult.
Right, avoiding overwhelming the smallest players right out of the gate.
Precisely. It's a practical move, helps with broader acceptance maybe, without crushing the little guys.
Okay, so that covers the who and when. Let's talk about the how. Beyond the dates, how will people actually use this digital ruble day to day? What's the mechanism?
So the central bank has been clear on this. At the checkout, the main way to pay with the digital ruble will be using its universal QR code.
A universal QR code, okay?
And this is actually quite a clever approach,
Why is that?
because that QR code system already supports Russia's existing faster payment system. Think of it like their instant bank transfer network.
Ah, okay. So they're leveraging infrastructure that's already in place and people might already be familiar with.
Exactly. And it's not just theory. They've tested this. Late last year, the Bank of Russia piloted this universal QR code with, I think it was 22 banks.
So they've already run trials on this specific payment method.
Yes. What's really insightful here is that decision. Integrate the new digital currency into a payment system that merchants and consumers might already be using.
Right. Less friction.
Much less friction. It means merchants don't necessarily need brand new hardware everywhere. It's more likely software updates. For people paying, it feels more familiar. It could significantly lower the barrier to actually using it.
That seems like a key lesson for anyone rolling out these kinds of systems. Make it easy, make it familiar.
Absolutely. It's all about adoption in the end.
So let's bring this all together. What does this story, this whole digital ruble delay and adjustment, what does it mean for you listening?
Well, it's more than just one country's currency project, isn't it?
For sure. This deep dive really gives us a fascinating look at the real-world messiness, the complexities of implementing these huge technological shifts in finance.
It really highlights how critical feedback from banks, from businesses, actually is.
And the need for the authorities, like the central bank here, to be flexible, to be pragmatic, and maybe adjust course when needed.
It really does. And, this whole situation raises a bigger question, I think.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
When a country like Russia, which was, an early mover in this whole CBDC space, when they run into such significant hurdles that they have to dramatically adjust their timeline, their approach, what does that signal for the global journey towards digital currencies?
Good question.
How will other countries learn from these kinds of very public, real-world experiences? And what impact might all this have on the actual pace and maybe even the structure of digital currency adoption around the world?